why don't we just start with, I'll start us off and I'll pass it to Claudia. Lakiana, he, him, his pronouns, co-chair of PCCEP.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claudia Claudio. I am the project assistant for PCCEP. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. I will pass it to Anne.
Hi, everyone. Ann Campbell, she, her pronouns, and secretary of the steering committee and for PCCEP. And I'll pass it to Tia.
Hello, I'm Tia, she, her pronouns, and I'm a new member to the Behavioral Health PCCEP committee. Thank you.
Byron Vaughn, new member of PCCEP and the subcommittee for behavioral health. Pass it to Rochelle.
Hi, my name is Rochelle Silver. I'm a community member, a member of the Mental Health Alliance.
Let's go to Barb. Did you already go?
I did not already go. Hi, my name is Barb Rainish, she, her pronouns. I am not a member of PCCEP, but I am a member of the Behavioral Health Subcommittee. Am I picking someone? I'm going to pick Jared.
Hey everyone, Jared Hager, U.S. Department of Justice, he, him pronouns, here in my role as monitor of the settlement agreement between the United States and the city of Portland. And thanks for having me. I'll pass it to Barbara.
Hi, Barbara Boshinsky, Portland Cop Watch, she, her. Good evening all, and I guess Anika hasn't talked yet, right? Or Kofi? Either one, I don't know.
Hi, yeah.
Hi.
This is,
Oh, go ahead, Kofi.
yeah, it took me a while to unmute. So. This is Kofi Desu, Office of Equity and Human Rights, City of Portland. Thank you. Who else? Anika?
Hi, good evening. This is Anika Bent Albert, Deputy City Attorney with the City of Portland here as liaison attorney for PCCEP. I'm sorry, it also takes me a long time to find the mute and the video button as well. Thank you.
I think the last person we have is Barbara.
I already did.
I think Barbara went, but I think I will round us out. So Sam Diaz, he, him, his in the mayor's office, filling in for Sam Adams. Thanks
One
all.
Sam for another. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate the leadership of these the different groups for being here as well. The Office of Equity and Human Rights and the City Attorney's Office. So we've got a number of things on the agenda and then some pieces that we're going to bring up at the end. I think some of the stuff might go fairly quickly, so there will be definitely time for that. We got the strategic plan. We'll talk about PCCEP leadership. One of our goals with the committee is to use this time more for workshopping issues rather than just purely planning or bringing things to it. We had asked that members from each of the subcommittees attend tonight, and that's going to kind of be the goal going forward. And even the leadership structure might slightly change to where we'll have the steering committee be comprised of the chairs of each of the subcommittees. So we've got that on the agenda, and then finally setting the agenda for October's meeting, which will be on the 26th. Theo's not able to make the meeting today. He was feeling a little bit under the weather, but he gave me an update on the strategic planning process. Obviously, it's one of the things I think that's going to really help PCCEP moving forward, is kind of like guiding us where we need to go. The subcommittees work independently right now, but I think that we all need to be like more connected. And that's why having the subcommittees all be part of the steering committee and then also providing a general framework, even though each of the subcommittees does different work, having them somewhat connected so that there's a strategy behind the work we're doing, I think is really important. And what Theo reported back, so part of the process, we have to accept bids from different contractors to do the strategic planning process. And so that's still ongoing. Claudia, is that about right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, so we're currently reviewing, I think, 3 different applicant and contractors to finalize on who we will be contracting for the strategic plan. So I think right now we have about 3 candidates that we're really eager to get a hold of and see what could best be, who can best help PCCEP with their strategic plan.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I know the goal is to start that process before our November meeting, just so that we have as much of our current leadership on as possible. I know myself personally, this will be my last term on PCCEP, so November will be my last meeting. And I know we want to try and utilize some of our current structure to start crafting this work. But I also think it's important that the folks that will be staying on are kind of really putting the input in it as well, since it will be their strategic plan moving forward. Any questions on that process from either PCCEP members or community? I don't know who's all leaving.
I have
and
my
when.
hand up.
Okay, I just read this comment from the thing, so I'll just answer that real quick. I don't know who's all leaving, Barb. I know that I just today just kind of let PCCEP staff know myself, just so we can plan and things like that. But I think that that's something that will come up soon, and we'll go to Ann. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks for your service, Lakiana. You've been with PCCEP for so long and such a guiding force. So I really appreciate it. I want to say that first.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then my second question is, I know that you and Taji have talked about and Theo have talked about the strategic plan. And I don't exactly, and I'm sorry, but I don't exactly know the purpose of it. And I don't understand the changes that you're wanting. I mean, I'm open to all changes, but so the current structure of PCCEP is our subcommittees, and then we have the steering committee, and you're advocating for a different change to that. And can you kind of go over that? I'm just kind of
Theo mentioned
change, but I'm just wondering.
Theo mentioned at the last either board meeting or steering committee meeting, I believe you were there, where he suggested that we switch it from just having 2. Yeah, it was at the steering committee planning meeting, where he was saying we should switch from just having 2 co-chairs that are separate from everybody, and instead move to a system where it's by all the co-chairs kind of the subcommittees share the power of the steering committee. That was not my suggestion, that was Theo's.
Yeah, I remember that piece. I think it's good for people that are here at our meeting today, but I wasn't really understanding it because I don't understand. I think that'd be great if we had all the people on the steering committee, all the heads of the subcommittees, but in terms of running meetings and pushing things forward, I think that structure we have is good unless we agree about a sharing, like for 3 months, this person runs meetings and runs issues, that kind of a deal.
Yeah, I can peel back some of the layers. So how it's been currently is that you have the 2 co-chairs and we set the agenda, right? The steering committee sets the agenda, other people come, they input their ideas, some stuff, right, is mandated to us, like you have to have a town hall meeting or this person has to speak, right? And then the co-chairs, either day of the meeting or a couple days before, will be like, okay, who's taking what part of the agenda, right? But what kind of ends up happening, well, 2 things happen. At the actual meeting, it's kind of a back and forth show of just two people kind of leading all the parts. So it's not as inclusive. And so some people are just kind of left there to set this 3-hour meeting while two people kind of facilitate it. And the other thing that happens at the steering committees, which I think is even more important, is that we don't know as a steering committee, we have no idea what the other subcommittees are doing. And that leaves us in a big blind spot and doesn't really give us a chance to have more insight to what's going on. I'll get to your question in just a second, Barb. So by changing the structure to where either, and I've advocated this for a while, that a representative from each committee attends the steering committee meeting so that we are more aware of what's going on, right? What are people doing well? What are they struggling with? What recommendations are coming forward? Who needs more members? Whatever it is, right? And so that's what the purpose of what I believe the purpose of the steering committee should be. And that's why I want us to move more into like workshopping things. Like, okay, we get some input from all the subcommittees and we find out that the youth subcommittee is working on X and we're going to work on that at this meeting rather than just like talking about everything, like actually use this meeting to do things. And by having 4 people as part of the steering committee, rather than just 2 co-chairs, it won't create a leadership vacuum at all. Matter of fact, it'll increase participation because then you have 4 people who are able to facilitate parts of the meeting, right? So instead of just 2 people taking parts, you can have 4. And then those subcommittee leaders can also then go back to their committee and be like, hey, here's what the other subcommittees are working on. Because not only does the steering committee not know, the subcommittees are just kind of working out on their own. So that's that piece. Then if you want to further complicate it, the strategic plan will give PCCEP a direction. Right now, PCCEP has no goals. It's just, we just do things. Each subcommittee just looks, whatever's they decide feels like this is the right topic. A lot of time it's influenced by outside things, right? Like there's giant protests downtown and all of a sudden PCCEP focuses on that. Now gun violence is going through the roof. And so we switch to, hands to that. But it's like, and so we're just kind of all over. And then each subcommittee, as the leadership changes, they decide, okay, these are the topics that I'm interested in. And so what it ends up is you have 4 little subcommittees that are all kind of going off in their own direction. A strategic plan will bring the entire committee together and say, these are the goals that we want to accomplish, right? Whether the youth subcommittee is doing this or the mental behavioral health subcommittee is doing this, we're all working towards some general framework. And that's to be decided by the committee as a whole during the strategic planning process, how that works, right? Maybe it's that PCCEP has a whole bunch of goals at the top, or like 3, right? That the main 3 and all the subcommittees are kind of working towards those. Like, let's say it's gun violence, or let's say it's gun violence, right? And the youth subcommittee works on gun violence through its lens. The behavioral health focuses on gun violence through its lens. And so we're all working on the same things, or it could be totally different. So I don't want us to get too much into the weeds of what will the strategic plan produce, other than PCCEP right now is running in at least 5 directions based on the 5 subcommittees with no overall cohesion and no way of really gauging how we're being successful. And so that's my thoughts on having a strategic plan. And it goes through a SWOT analysis, which identifies like the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. So it really helps. It can be done for nonprofits, committees. It really helps like the committee think through all of the moving pieces and create a plan. They're usually done in either 2, 3, or 5-year situations. I would probably suggest somewhere between 2 and 3 because things change so much, but it'll give PCCEP a lot more structure. So then even when new people are coming on, the committee doesn't just like have to reset its focus. Someone can come in and be like, hey, here's the strategic plan. Here's what we've got laid out for the next 2 to 3 years. Does that?
I don't agree with such a rigid focus, and I'm sorry. I know we're just kind of discussing this, and I don't want to jump ahead of Barb, but we didn't have time to talk about it that much in our last meeting. I think that's the beauty of PCCEP, is that we're community focused. And after the murder of George Floyd, we had all those town halls. I agree that let's all work together on things, but I think that's the beauty of it. Behavioral health works on different things, and at the large meeting they talk about it. I mean, we could expand that. And what do you need help? I just don't want us to be like, okay, we've decided for 3 years we're going to be talking about X and Y and Z, because it feels like this work is ever changing, and, you know, the issues in our community, you know, today could be very different than tomorrow. I mean, look what we're dealing with right now, the fall bump, you know, the PPB, you know, issues and the DOJ settlement. I mean, we've got a lot going on. So I guess I don't really understand the vision of this, of, you know, and I kind of said a little bit at the last meeting, I understand it was Theo's idea, but I don't really agree with that. And I just want to be open about that.
Okay, I'll come back to that, but I see we got other questions, so I'll see if anyone else wants to respond to that or add some other pieces. I'll go to Barb, and then I also got Byron.
Barb has a lot to say since she's been part of a subcommittee that bing bang started from scratch, built itself up, wasn't part of the whole George Floyd thing exactly, and had to find our own way and make our own way. So to hear that the 13 members of the PCCEP, who we don't even know who the 13 members of the PCCEP will be, are gonna come up with a 3-year strategic plan sounds kind of silly, to be honest. There are goals that PCCEP has, and they are ever changing. They revolve around the directives and recommendations with regard to what's going on at the time. So I think it's really sad that there's 30 minutes allocated to this topic on the agenda today. And unfortunately, Theo, I think, is the champion of it, and he's not here. Now, changing the structure of the steering committee is supposed to come up with, set the agenda. And then the steering committee has made the decision in the past that the updates part of the regular meeting agenda is going to be rushed through, and each subcommittee is going to be asked to give a 2 to 3 minute update, etc. It sounds to me like that's part of the meeting that needs to be expanded in order to get the different subcommittees to know what's going on. And now we're going to go down a small rabbit hole. Claudia, are there still notes being taken at the meetings, and are those being posted anywhere? Because whose responsibility is it to find out what the other subcommittees are doing? I thought it was each individual member's job to do that, and they could do it by looking at the notes or watching the recordings or having conversations with people. So some of this just seems, I'm not saying it seems like a hard right turn, and I don't think it's right to do that without a bunch of buy-in, I guess is what I'm saying with regard to that. And hi, Mary Claire. Strategic plans. It's been 5 years since the Portland Police Bureau started working on their most recent 5-year strategic plan, but there's been more than 5 police chiefs in that time. So I'm sure that that's scrapped. And I don't even know if they're working on a new 5-year strategic plan. And I think that that's where I'm at for right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to Byron.
I agree in a sense with Lakiana. We all are in a group. We are worried about community. Yeah, when we need to get things where we mess up, we're not making a checklist of what's going on and then going back and checking up on those things, going down to the police station, going down to HR, going down to whoever needs to be implementing these things. And I don't think we're missing out on your things that we doing in the community. We can still do those things, you know. The hard things that we need to really get panned out is what we're not doing. We're not hammering out the hard things that needs to be implemented, then brought back. We don't have time to wait for anybody at any of these agencies to come in and report to us and tell us what's going on. We need to be proactive and go to get on our feet and go out there and knock on these people's doors at their desk that they're working at to ask them, are you doing this? You can't govern from a golden chair. You know, you have to get off your ass and go out there and get on your feet and look and do things and then get real results. We're going to keep everything hokey-dory. We want to find out what's going on in the community and fix everything. That's what we are, the community. We are 12 people of the community coming together to make one decision. It shouldn't be that difficult.
I hear what you're saying. I don't really totally understand it. I know that when we do recommendations and pass things, I know there's been some issue about we have to as members personally follow up to see if things have happened. Is that what you're talking about? I know that you and I talked about that. We
Yeah.
don't have that process down yet. We're not sure if the staff is doing it.
As long as PCCEP has been here, that process should have been long ago implemented. Everything we're talking about now should have been done before I even been on this board. A lot of these things you're talking about should have already been implemented or saying what PCCEP is all about. You know, I was telling somebody about what would you think of a good neighbor? And then you would write down those 10 rules of what a good neighbor is. And that's what PCCEP runs off of. Think of what are the 10 good rules for a community. And nobody didn't want to do that. But yet we don't know what we actually supposed to be doing for the community. You know, so let's figure out what we're going to be doing for the community. And we're going to do that. Top priority is gun violence, homelessness, yada, 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 yada. If you have some other things that you want to come in and add on, we can talk about those things at the end of the meeting. And we'll make a note and we go back to them because we don't want to miss out anybody that's on this board doing anything. We want to hear everybody.
Let me hop in here. I appreciate both y'all for saying that. I just want to read what Tia put in the chat. I need a plan to feel productive, but I became more linear. After my brain injury, I've always been goal-oriented and human-focused at the same time. Appreciate you adding that in there. I think that's actually a great segue to what I was going to kind of share and to you as well, Barb, to the whole group. The strategic plan has to be a balance of structure, but not too much so that it constricts us from working, right? But none of these agencies that we work with just go day by day and see what happens, right? As Barb just mentioned, PPB has a strategic plan. The mayor's office has a plan of how it's going to attack things, right? And they plan things out. Obviously, things are going to come up, but if we go, and you know, this is PCCEP's going to be on, you know, I'm just adding my thought to it, but I've watched PCCEP since the beginning, and PCCEP needs to tighten itself up in order to be effective with its work. And if we continue to go year by year with no plan, we're just going to be like, we're just going to see what happens this year and what comes up, and we'll just kind of go off those things, and we don't measure it, we're going to be spinning in circles. And so it's a matter of finding a balance, right? And that's why I said I don't want us to get into the weeds about what will the strategic plan focus on, because that's something that happens in the strategic plan. So it's not to say we're going to focus on topics per se, like gun violence and houselessness. And if it's not those two topics, then we're not doing anything about it. It's a matter of finding out what are the areas we want to focus. How do we want to align the entire committee? But again, and this is a suggestion, it's been in there for a while. So to hear it now that we're at this point is a little bit frustrating because we've had several meetings about this, but it's not set in stone. We can bring it up to the rest of the committee. If the committee says we'd rather operate with no strategic plan, that's completely fine. I've seen it how it has been right now. And I would just say from 3 years of being on the committee, it's not effective for our work. And to Byron's point, outside of just the strategic plan, there's other systems that need to be put in place that should have been developed. And some of it's just like you kind of learn as you go. And that's a lot of what PCCEP's gone through. It's just kind of learning like, oh, we should probably have this to be effective. But I see personally a lot of things slipping through PCEP's fingers because of a lack of structure. And we are working with highly organized organizations. And so we're at a disadvantage if we're not keeping up with that. Let's go with Barb and then let's go with Kofi.
Old hand.
Old hand, okay. Still a great one. Let's go with Kofi.
Yeah, thank you. So I will, I just want to make some suggestions regarding a strategic plan. I think that will be an opportunity for all of you to agree on what you really want to be doing and how you want to measure the work that you are doing, so that in a year or 2 or 3 you can say, okay, we agreed to do this and then we were successful, or maybe we need to do more, and so on. So you may call it something different than strategic plan, because the purpose of PCCEP has already been defined by the settlement agreement. So usually if it is something that you are starting from scratch, it takes longer, because this is now that you are defining your purpose, your mission, and a lot of things. But in your case, there is a foundation that exists already, and you have been doing the work already. You have been doing a lot of work. I saw how you were able to develop a plan, PCCEP plan. You were able to start developing some measure of success. Those measures of success that you have started building are aligned with the purpose of the PCCEP, the purpose of the existence of the PCCEP. So we're putting that together and agree on it is going to help you, to do your work. It doesn't have to be too specific, but so that you have some flexibility, but at least it has to be aligned with the purpose of the existence of PCCEP. PCCEP exists for a reason. So that's what I want to contribute. And the second aspect is about the structure. I think, I have observed a lot of advisory commissions that in the city of Portland, and some of them have been successful, some of them not, because sometimes some subcommittees are created and then run with their own agenda without being collective with the main structure. So I think I've seen the same problem happening with PCCEP. So it would be good to involve the subcommittee members in the executive or steering committee, so that they play a role, they inform the other members, and they can see how they support each other in the work. So bringing the subcommittee members to the steering committee is going to help you a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Kofi, for both of those insights. Really appreciate it. Let's go with Jared, and then we're going to wrap this section up.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate those comments, Kofi. I did just want to, make clear that it's not the settlement agreement that defines PCCEP. It created PCCEP, or required the city to create you. The PCCEP plan that City Council passed in compliance with the settlement agreement does lay out some specific purposes for the committee. I hear good arguments on both sides. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. So I just wanted to comment that the Department of Justice agnostic, you guys define your own way. Thanks.
No, thank you, Jed. Thank you for correcting that. Thank you.
Glad to have so many different opinions on it. What I'm going to do is, what we'll do is we'll move forward. we should bring this to a vote at PCEP's next meeting, because the bids have already been put out for the strategic planning process. And it's concerning, we've had this on the table for a while now, and there's been a lot of time to kind of add input. And now that the bids are out, there still seems to be some not clear agreement if we want to move forward on it. And I think for PCEP to be strong in things, it needs to have a mandate in order to move forward. The steering committee has to have that in order to do things. So in order to move forward with that process, I'm going to ask that we bring it to a vote. So that way we're moving forward, we're not like waffling over whether we want to have a strategic plan or not. And I think that's one thing. And I'm going to kind of talk as I'm in these next few meetings, as I'm leaving, it's just kind of suggestions, because ultimately I'm not here for much longer. So I want to put all my say so in it. But I would suggest that PCEP votes on certain things like that, so that we have a really strong mandate. So we don't get like 2 meetings down like we're at now, where we're already taking in bids for something and members of the steering committee or whoever are unclear of whether we should do it or not. And I'll give you the final word, because I know you had a lot of thoughts and input on this.
I appreciate this idea and the work on this. My concern is that I'm a steering committee member and PCEP member, and it was brought up in a steering committee meeting recently, and it was explained that you'd already gone, we'd already gone to bid on that without really talking about it in full with all the members. Now, I'm not in disagreement of going forward and having a plan that is flexible, but I think that we should all have ample time to understand what is the plan, how can I help the plan, or, how does it relate to our PCEP plan? I just want to make sure that we're all walking together on that. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I think it's been, in my mind, rushed, and I don't think that everyone knows about it. That's my worry about it. And I want to make sure we're all together in it.
Yeah, we'll bring it to a vote so we can be clear on it. I know it has been discussed for a while now. I couldn't track down where or when it has been discussed, but I know it's been on last month's agenda at least. But I appreciate everyone's insight. And when we bring it up to the full board meeting, we will kind of share some of these different thoughts on it. Let's move on to the next piece of this, which is the PCEP leadership discussion, which is kind of the second part of what we were just talking about, the structure piece. And so I guess we're kind of into it already. So we're not actually that far behind and everything like that. Just to make sure I've got this right though, there's only the behavioral health subcommittee that is present right now. Is there any other policy and settlement is here too, I guess, Anne?
I'm here.
Okay. Yep. Any other subcommittees?
Luckiana, I spoke with Theo earlier today, and he did not reach out. He forgot to reach out to them to ask. So no,
Okay.
that's all we have right now.
I know he's been under the weather. So what I'd like to do is we're just going to kind of model this right now, what we're asking for. I would like to hear, we'll give 3 minutes to each, 3 to 4, just keeping cognizant of time. But I'd like to hear from each subcommittee. I'd like to hear what are your successes? What are your challenges? And then the third piece is, how do you feel about this new leadership structure idea, which, to be clear, came from Theo, but that's really less important. We've heard from a number of people, including Kofi, about the idea of sharing more and about hearing more from these subcommittees. So I don't have a thought on which committee goes first, but I'd like to hear, what is going successful? What are the challenges? And then actually, in addition to kind of a yay or nay on the new leadership idea, if you're a nay, I'd like to hear what you think should be an alternative, or if you think we should just keep it the same. And then the other piece is that what are the things your committee's working on currently? Like recommendations or whatnot. So we'll start with behavioral health just because they've got more members here.
Okay, so I guess that's me first. Because I messed up sending it in the chat to what Claudia said about the discussion started in mid-August, early September. That was discussion, not making a decision about anything that I noticed. And I'm not, Claudia is the only staff member here. She's the messenger. I'm not down on Claudia in any way, shape, or form. So the new structure idea, I think, isn't bad at all. That's part of the reason why the Behavioral Health Subcommittee has been going to the steering committee for the last year plus since we've been in existence. It has crossed my mind, however, that if you're going to make up your steering committee from like your subcommittees, you might want to have co-chairs rather than chairs of your subcommittees, just to spread the work a little bit more, because that's basically asking one person to come to now 3 meetings a month for sure, kind of locking them into that. And I don't know if that's what you guys want to do or how you guys want to work. And so that's, I guess, what I have to say about that. I also think that there's a difference between a steering committee and a work group. So it sounds to me like you guys should still have your steering committee member meetings and then also have some actual work group meetings between your different subcommittees. The Behavioral Health Subcommittee has been sort of in this really weird, tedious position for the last year and a half of its existence. And we've done an incredibly good job of making our own way, making good relationships with the behavioral health unit from the police department, from the police bureau, and other members. I wish that we had more community members there, and more support from the rest of the PCCEP, I guess. But I don't know who reads minutes from the meetings, and I don't know who goes back and watches the recordings of the meetings. So I can't really cast aspersions because I don't know who does what. Because I'm not a member of the PCCEP, I don't get all the email that the PCCEP gets. I get only a very small fraction. But I try within our own little PCCEP Behavioral Health Subcommittee to send out information that I think will be useful for each of us to know. And I think that more and more people trading information like that would be awesome. Something was just forwarded to me that I guess Sean Campbell from the Training Advisory Council had put together with a whole bunch of different links and information on it. And I wasn't sure if he always does that or if that was the first time or whatever. And I haven't had much of a chance to vet through that. And the Behavioral Health Subcommittee is also going through, changes because we have new members, which is great. But we also have things that we were involved in already and had started sort of as an offshoot of the core patrol services recommendations, which a lot of them were Behavioral Health Subcommittee recommendations that we just hadn't put into play yet because we didn't have enough community input. So to elevate them to the core patrol services thing and getting more community input was awesome. But we also had a discussion where we've invited police officers to many different discussions. And we invited officers to a discussion about the core patrol services because PCEP had heard that the police bureau, that from a couple of members of the police bureau that felt like they weren't asked or there wasn't enough time when a survey went out, etc. But from that meeting, we sort of learned that we didn't know enough about the wellness program and wanted to learn more about that. So over the next couple of meetings, and now hopefully we'll wrap it up by the end of the year, we've heard from the wellness program and from the employee assistance program and want to put some recommendations together. And then also separate from that, the wellness program directive just so happened to have come out. So we're also gonna work on some comments toward that. I reached out to the co-chairs for SAPs and didn't really hear back as far as working with them on the directives, and was just gonna circle back and ask probably at this meeting, maybe even right now, to see where they want to, if we're on our own, if they want to work with us or what have you. And like I said, the time frame on that is till the end of the year. To talk about what we need more from staff is really kind of weird and awkward. Oh, hey, it's 6:19 for no good reason. My alarm goes off.
So
Since
can I
just found out-
suggest something? Can I suggest something with the staff piece? I think some of that's best internally and just bringing right to staff. I don't think if it's going to be awkward, then I would just give it to them directly. And I think that would be more helpful than just saying it out loud.
Okay, sounds like you think I have no tact.
No, I'm
And
just
that you're-
saying, I've
and
just,
that you're,
I've,
hold on, excuse me. And that you're shutting me down. I was going to make the comment that I just found out that Judith isn't going to be staffing the behavioral health subcommittee anymore. So it doesn't make any sense to talk about what we weren't getting from staff because we're moving forward with staff differently. That was what I was going to say about staff at that point, Lakiana. And, you know, as a community member, I just want to point out how much every time we turn around, there's a little bit of change here. And I don't know if PCEP keeps up with it or not. And that's where I'll stop there then.
yeah, I
And
wasn't
then I
meaning
guess
to
I wanna
cut you
ask-
off.
Excuse me.
Wasn't meaning to cut you off, but I feel like sometimes I've observed what it feels like PCEP members kind of tossing our staff under the bus. And I wasn't suggesting that you were going to do that, but when you said it could be a little awkward, I was just like, well, let me just hop in there before something is said that could just be given to staff directly. Because I think sometimes, you know, what we got to realize is that everything that we say is going out to everybody else, right? And we've got other groups that we're working with here. And if we have internal issues and we just air them out in front of everybody, you know, that creates opportunities for people to see and to work in on us. And I've observed that the PCEP committee sometimes just says like, well, staff haven't done this or whatever it is, or even an internal structure issue, right? Like as much as we want to lean into these meetings, like these are transparent and open meetings, we got to remember that there's people on other parts of this that are listening in on this and will exploit those things. I wish I could say that everybody just has the best intentions, but we just got to realize they don't. And so we have to be really just aware that we can communicate our weaknesses, and it might be best we have either calling up a staff member or another PCEP member, or we have our retreats. And I think that those are good spaces for it. And we just have to be really cognizant of that and not just projecting all of our stuff in the interest of being honest and transparent. And so I wasn't trying to cut you off, Barb, but just want to make sure that we didn't inadvertently telegraph structural pieces that should be left internally to PCEP.
And so now that you've called me out and it sounds like you think I have, I want
No,
clarity.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
Thank you.
that. I'm
That's
not.
the clarity I wanted.
No.
I wanted you to clarify that and not
Yeah.
leave it the
No,
other
but you
way.
said this is gonna be a little awkward. And so I just wanted to stop you before we said something that was awkward. What you said wasn't awkward, but the way you said it made me just want to pause before you might have said something. I'm gonna, I see Jared's got his,
Go.
I see Jared's got his hand up, so I'll go to him.
Thanks, Lakiana. I just wanted to take the opportunity since it came up to say I really appreciate Claudia and Theo and the staff. I know you work hard, and I notice. And I also, I want to validate Barb, and I know everyone has ideas and they want to be expressed and heard. And Lakiana, I didn't put it in the comment box, but you've been fantastic. PCEP wouldn't be anywhere as far along as it is without your leadership, your effort, passion for the subject. So I just want to take the opportunity to give everyone a shout out. I appreciate what you're all doing. Thanks.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate that. And just wrapping up what Barbara's saying, so just some of the things that I heard that came out of what your update was from the subcommittee, which is helpful for us. You wanting to have more community members, more support from the committee as a whole, which definitely resonates with me. I know we have struggled with that committee, particularly feeling supported by the rest of the subcommittee or the committee as a whole. So I think that's good. You mentioned a number of initiatives y'all are working on and something that you want to connect with the Settlement and Policy Subcommittee. And I'm sure Claudia has kind of bring up some or taken down some of the other pieces as well, but very helpful for us. I'll turn it over to Ann to give an update on the Settlement and Policy Subcommittee. And again, what we're looking for are successes, challenges, yay or nay on the structure change, or if no, what your thoughts are on that, and then what are the current projects your committee is working on in roughly 4 or 5-ish minutes.
Yikes. Okay.
Yeah, so we don't need like a nitty gritty of everything, but just, kind of
Yeah, no, I get it. First, I want to say that Barb wanted Byron and Tia to speak. Do you want to have them go before me, or what are you thinking?
I think for the sake of time, let's have you go, and then if there's follow-up that they want to add, that they're more than welcome to join in on it.
Okay. As many of us know, Vadim recently decided to not be on the Settlement and Policy Committee, and Zainab is no longer on PCEP. So I guess I am the one PCEP member on the Settlement and Policy Committee. I've been on that for probably a year. Maybe not that long. Vadim asked me to join him when I did get involved in it. And in my mind, it's about issues relative to the DOJ settlement, and it's been really active. We, as we all know, the city of Portland's out of compliance. I actually went to the court case, and I'm going to go to the one next month, the follow-up. We've had the DOJ Jared, and also City of Portland attorneys Heidi and Anika and Robert Taylor speak about their process and where they are. The Settlement and Policy Committee focuses on issues relative to that. And also we have tried to focus on the the Portland Police Bureau directives that are relative to the Settlement and Policy Agreement. As I've mentioned a number of times, that the dates when they drop those and our meetings have been a little bit difficult, but we're working through that. For instance, on the 1st, and I believe it's the 15th, they drop the new directives and they're only active for half the month. So regardless of that, we're looking at those, trying to bring those for community comment. Challenges would be I think as others have said, more community input. What I found when we've had more community members at our meetings. I think it's relative to hearing about updates on the mediation between the city and Department of Justice. Our next meeting this month is going to be on the COCL report, and that is of interest to many people. And so I'm hoping that we have a lot of people at that meeting. Let's see, challenges, ideas, and goals. I'd like to have more PCEP members there. I asked Byron to come and join us, actually at the steering committee, but other members that want to come to the Settlement and Policy Committee. And in terms of the idea about the structure change, I like that. I like sharing more, and I like the collaborative running of things. I just want us all to be on the same page and talk about the idea with everyone. I think it would be great if we had all of the subcommittee chairs be on the steering committee. I've said before, and I continue to say, I'm concerned about who's going to run the meetings then, in terms of, because we talk about issues that have arisen that we want to look at and we want to bring to the full PCEP. We get those ideas from the community and other members. Who's going to be the person who does that? Because I want us to continue to do, I think we've done a lot of great work since I've been on PCEP. So I think I've answered all the questions, have I?
Yeah, just to get clarification though, for the structure piece, it's a yes, but talk about it with the rest of the committee.
Yeah, and I think there should be some what I've observed, because I go to those meetings in my secretary role, it's really important to have some buddies that are running the meeting. And so if we decide to do it where we have all of the subcommittee chairs, I think we still should have co-leaders of the whole group. And maybe it could be those people or others, because I really think that consistency is important. That's what I think.
Okay, awesome. And to Barb's point in the chat, I don't think anybody knew that the other members had stepped off, which is exactly why this is important to hear from that, because I was not aware of that either. So currently the only member that's serving on there.
Vadim didn't step off PCEP.
Yes. Yeah.
He just said he doesn't want to be on the Settlement and Policy Subcommittee anymore.
Right. And I don't actually even think it's official that Zainab's not on the full committee. So I'll let.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll let staff kind of figure that one out. But so currently you're the only PCEP member on the committee. It's been very active. Challenges just having more community members, wanting to see more PCEP members at the meetings as well. And you're bringing up a number of initiatives. So again, really informative to us. And I think once we've kind of got the system in place, what I envision is that we're able to get those updates and then either choose a topic from one of those committees or something as a whole. Maybe it's something that concerns all of PCEP that we work on. So that's very helpful in that.
I don't understand what you just said. I'm sorry. Can you explain that?
So, okay, so like we would get an update 5 minutes from each of you like we just did, and then we would pick a topic from either one of those committees or something as a whole that concerns the entire PCEP, like a bylaw change or even this leadership structure piece, and work on that at each steering committee meeting.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that was my push, just to use this time, not just to discuss things, but to actually workshop through it, because time is so limited, right? That we actually use this to like work through something.
But I still think we should retain some sort of leadership that we could, do that collaboratively. Like for 6 months, it's these people that are co-doing it, and then there's, because I think, that lead the meetings, that kind of get that going.
Yeah. And I think that should just be brought up once that actual piece goes into it, because it's like we just haven't decided on it yet. So that's my thoughts on that. What I would like quick question from Barbara, comment, and then let's move forward because I do want to be cognizant of our time. There's a number of other things we want to get in here, but go ahead, Barb.
Yeah, and I actually have other things I want to get in here too. What I wanted to say is I've made this suggestion to staff before, but I don't know that I've made it to PCEP members. I think that if you guys rotated your facilitatorship of the meetings, that would be good for all of you, since there's going to be times, hopefully, that PCEP members are going to be facilitating the subcommittee meetings also. And I think that actually having a yearly training on that to help people learn how to do that well would really be a good thing. And I've been trying, if you guys were having regular retreats, I've been pushing to have a training like that at one of them, but it is what it is.
Thank you for those suggestions. Okay, so what I'd like to do is move to planning out the October meeting. And then Anne had brought up a number of things that we'll use the leftover time to kind of work through those pieces. I'm pretty sure that we have a town hall with Coco at the end of the month. Is that correct, Claudia or Anne?
No,
Go
it's at
ahead.
our next meeting.
Yeah, so I put it in the chat for folks, and I can share it again, but it will be this Thursday, and the report is also linked to the agenda and is also on the future section of the homepage on PCEP, so folks can easily find the report. And if anyone has comments that you'd like to share during this settlement agreement policy, there will be time for that. If not, comments on the report are open till November 11th.
Got it. So what was asked then, because there's two things, was the fall bump then, that's correct?
Yeah, let me look at my notes because I know.
I think I was talking with that either with Theo or maybe at our planning meeting. I think that's because there was two meetings, the Coco and that one that were both.
Yeah, the mayor's office, Sam Diaz, if you're still around, you can kind of speak on that, but they had requested to have space or time on the agenda for the fall bump.
Okay. Sam, is that correct?
Yes, please, if that's okay with you all.
And how much time do you think you'll need?
So we have a few proposals out of the mayor's office. Commissioner Mapp's office will also be presenting on BOIC. And then Commissioner Hardis's office, I've invited to present on Portland Street response.
Okay, so we're gonna give you all 2 hours, 2 of our 3 hours. Is that enough time? Because you're gonna have 3 presentations and then community comment, which I could imagine would be a lot.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sam, are the presentations, has it already been determined where the fall bump dollars are going?
No, it is still very much in proposal form, and offices are being briefed by city budget office. Let me provide the link on the executive summary. So city budget office just posted the executive summary to the fall bump on Friday. So you'll see some of the high level details and what we're hoping to do at the meeting on the 26th is be able to dive deep with you all on the details.
Are there any, I haven't looked at that yet. Are the Core Patrol's recommendations that Elliot and Taji and PCEP passed, are those part of it? Yeah, so there are, so for example, the Portland Street response expansion is one of them. So there's 11 full-time employee positions proposed to be added. Bureau of Emergency Communications, which was also a section that PCEP honed in on, is adding 4 positions, supervisor and quality assurance. So I'm trying to see what else. I think that's it. I think top of mind, that is what comes to mind when I was looking at the Core Patrol services.
Can you tell me about how much time you all think your particular presentation will need, just so we can try and budget that time out?
Sure. I think probably presentation will take maybe in total 30 minutes. For Mayor's office, Commissioner Mapp's office, and Hardessy's offices.
Okay, total. So total for all three of those presentations.
Yeah, and I think probably like 30-minute for clarifying questions.
Sure.
Because I think PCCEP, you all are an audience that is going to, this will really help us, kind of ask about the nuts and bolts as you did on core patrol services. Then I would say, if it's publicized, I would say there's a lot of interest in this, and there's a lot of funding available in this fall bump. So I would say 30 minutes for public comment.
Okay. So that condenses, actually, I thought maybe each presentation would need to be like 20. So that works out for us. A couple questions in the chat where I'm just gonna let Barb ask them, because I think it'll be better so she can clarify them as well.
Sam, is there money put aside for the service coordination team at all with the PPB as part of the fall bump?
So that is, let me just see. I would say right now the mayor's really looking at what the rehire strategy looks like. And so as you all, some voices in the last PCCEP meeting mentioned, right, that vetting is really important. And the mayor has heard that and has said, yes, we're not going to take every officer that is retired. We're going to look at their file. We're working with the union on those types of conversations, but the city has every right and responsibility to do that. So I think to operationalize that, there's potential idea, and this is the feedback we'd like from PCCEP, is if officers have taken the voluntary training, for enhanced crisis intervention team, or as you're saying, right, have worked in the service coordination team, would that application to come back be bumped up? And so that's the kind of feedback we're going to be looking for from PCCEP. And so I just ask if you all have ideas for how to operationalize those priorities, how to if there are specific units within Police Bureau that you, as you did for the recommendations, would want to see for the rehire strategy. That'd be really helpful for the mayor and for Chief LaBelle to hear.
That's cool. I thought you were totally way off and you tied what you were saying to my question. Thanks.
Sam, can I suggest that you come up with a list of things that you would like PCCEP and or the community to be looking at when we get ready for this meeting? I think that would be helpful, so people can either do research or just be prepared, like what exactly in this are you particularly looking for feedback? Like some of the things you were just saying seem like they would be helpful for us to have our eye on.
Can we also publicize other ways to give feedback?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, PCCEP is, again, as I called it, right, part of the virtual roadshow. But everyone is able to sign up for public comment at city council session or submit written testimony. So what I can do, Lakiana and Ann, is maybe send you a proposed slide deck to you all. And then if you can kind of see if there are any gaps, and then that way we can post that as part of the agenda, but then also use that as a way for people who may not be able to make the meeting.
Perfect.
That sounds good.
I had a question for Sam. I'm sorry, Lakiana.
Yeah, we'll go to Byron, and then I see Mary Claire also has a question as well.
Just going off the limb, would even retired fire department people, would that be something, or are they tied up with all these fires, or just another option of, because maybe they can come in, and firefighters seem to me be a little bit more level-headed They can be used as counselors, or I don't know. And it's maybe I have to think more about it.
Yeah, that is interesting. So Commissioner Hardesty's office will be here. So if you, as their commissioner in charge, Commissioner Hardesty and Chief Boone would be the office to make a proposal at a fall bump on that. So, but they'll be here. If you want to think about that, you have, about 2 weeks, and then, bring this up again to them so you can have the conversation with them directly. I will say that Portland Fire and Rescue houses the Portland Street Response, as you probably all know. And so I think, I don't want to speak for Hardesty's office, but there's been a lot of work happening within Fire and Rescue and Hardesty's office. And that's where you'll see quite a significant proposal, and you'll hear more details about it.
Thank you. Let's go with Mary Claire.
Well, Lucky, not to do with Sam's presentation, but when you're talking about the agenda, I just wanted to ask a question if you had room for consideration of another item. Is it okay if I mention that now, or do you want to finish up with Sam?
Yeah, I just want to finish up with Sam and then we'll get to it.
Thanks.
So we have an hour of time there. I'll try not to pack everything wall to wall for all 3 hours, so it leaves us a little wiggle room in there for things. Is that all from you though, Sam?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so we know we got that on the agenda for sure. And we'll make sure to advertise it, because it sounds like it will be a very interesting presentation with the different offices there and the different topics with Portland Street Response and stuff. I think it'll have high attendance. Go ahead, Mary Claire.
Thanks, Lucky, and I appreciate Ann being willing to hear the PCCEP report at her subcommittee, but was wondering if there was any room on the monthly board meeting. This, as you know, the COCO's report just came out today, and the subcommittee's meeting is Thursday, and I don't really believe that gives enough time for people to digest 72 pages and also to notify community members who might want to comment on that. So I was just wondering if there was, before it used to be at the, a monthly meeting for the whole board. And then I know a couple times when we were short, we've gone to the subcommittee, but it just seems a very quick turnaround. And I think that we should give more time for people first to read it, and also to get the word out that that's gonna, that the, notice to the rest, not just to PCCEP, but to community members who might want to comment about the contents of that report.
Yep, let's put it on there. How much time are you thinking?
And do you remember what he asked for? Did he ask for a half hour or something?
Are you talking about, well, a little bit of background on that. In the past, they've wanted their own meeting, and we know that it's really short. And we have tried to include it in meetings, and it takes up pretty much the bulk of the time. We could have maybe like an overview. We could ask them to do like an overview, maybe a half an hour, and have questions from people, or maybe 40 minutes. That kind of gets into the other presentation. But I think once we, look at everything we're dealing with, I hear what you're saying, giving people more time to go over it.
Yeah, and I do think that is one of, PCCEP's responsibilities, is to, to review that document and to, comment on it, what have you. And I don't think it should be given short shrift. And like I said, there might be others who want to attend who don't normally go to the, subcommittee meeting on Thursday at 5:30. That's all I'm saying. And so
I think.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And we can definitely look at that.
I think we can just put an hour of time on there. I think with the other stuff that we have, I mean, that'll give us 1 hour for all the other intangible pieces that we have to do, so we can get the fall bump an hour, COCO about a half hour to present, and then a half hour for questions. You'll have a lot of community members there anyway, so why not
Right.
try and bring it together? Jared just put up in the chat too that the time difference, I won't be at Thursday's meeting. So I think it would be a good fit on that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your
Yeah, thanks for making sure that
accommodations in that.
we
Yeah.
thought of that.
Luciana, can I ask a question to Sam?
Yes.
Sam, regarding the document that you shared with us in chat, I looked through that. That didn't seem to contain anything regarding the hiring of retired officers. Is that going to be found somewhere else? And then my question was, the mayor did listen and he wants to have criteria. He's going to vet the officers. Is there a criteria he's using? Is he looking for feedback on that? Yeah, those are my questions.
Great questions. So, yeah, the link I shared is the executive summary. So I would say it's still very much in development. And if PCCEP is interested in sending a letter or scheduling a meeting to recommend criteria, I could definitely help set that up. But those are the details that we'll be able to share at the 26th.
But possibly have a meeting prior to that to discuss what those criteria could be, or is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think if, I'll figure out more from Sam on kind of what the next week and a half looks like. I imagine it's a lot of meetings with the police bureau, city attorney's office, and if necessary, the union. And then once we have a proposal that is, I would say, it's gone through those reviews, I'll be sure to share it with you. If once you read it, you think a meeting would be good, would be more than happy to schedule it. I think Sam Adams would be the point, but I can help schedule.
Thank you for that. So we'd reach out to him, because I know of a couple of members that have expressed interest in that, Byron and also Gloria, and I'm sure there's other members that are interested in kind of looking into that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll wait to get that information from you, and then we could reach out to Sam Adams to set up the meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think I can help schedule. Everyone's plate is overflowing. So I can help with that.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the agenda, we know we've got the fall bump for an hour. We've got the COCO presentation. The two things I had talked about earlier before we had gotten to this point was having a vote on the strategic plan and also a short conversation on the structure change. I do want to note, though, that sometimes the steering committee does have the ability to act on things. That's what the steering committee is for, is to make executive decisions. So I don't want, everything can't be brought to the full meeting every single time, which is why the steering committee exists, right? Like, we don't decide the agendas at the full board meeting. But those are the two other things that I have on there. Is there other stuff we think we should discuss or want to add to the agenda?
Well, we might have something, after Sam sends us that information regarding the vetting of retired officers. I don't know.
Is that part of your conversation, Sam, or is that something different?
Yeah, I think it would be part of the overall, right? So I think the mechanics are the police bureau is going to request funding in the fall bump from council. And council is going to want to hear from the public about any conditions on that funding in order to reach the goals laid out. So absolutely, it's part of the fall bump proposal conversation.
Okay, Great. So that way it'll be condensed in there. Let's go with Kofi. See his hand is up.
Yeah, thank you. I will recommend that for the strategic plan discussions, a summary about the process, the scope of the work, so that PCCEP members know what they are voting on. My understanding is it's going to be, there's going to be a facilitator to allow the PCCEP members to decide how it will go. So nothing is going to be imposed on the PCCEP members. But it will be good to, have a document. So I'm looking at Claudia here. I will speak to Theo also to have a brief summary of how it will go, so that PCCEP members know what they will be voting on.
I 100% agree. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that'll help the process be a lot faster. So my suggestion is we cap the agenda at that, the COCO report, the bump, and then the structure and the strategic plan. My recommendation going forward, Zoom meetings are long, really long. I would suggest that we have meetings for about 2 hours. And if things need to go into a third-ish hour, like these last 2 agenda items, put them there. But I wouldn't suggest us just packing. I know we had gone from like 1.5 hour meetings or 2 hours to like back to the 3 hour. But I would suggest that we not pack it if we don't need to, and only use that 3rd hour if it's necessary, and not just say let's stay on Zoom for 3 hours, because I'm sure it's everybody's favorite thing. So I think this meeting will probably go to around 7:30, but I'm not going to suggest that we add anything else to try and get us to 8 o'clock at night. And I would just, as we continue to be on Zoom, I would probably recommend that be a good practice for the committee. I know we didn't get to some of the things, Anne, that you were talking about. My recommendation is that we save them for next time. We've only got 5 minutes. What are your thoughts on that?
Hey, that's fine. I think that my thoughts got answered.
Okay.
They're relative to the bump. And I just want to say about the timing, I agree that would be great, but I just want to make sure we have time for everyone to share their feedback and their points. So, I mean, we've been doing this 3-hour meeting, which I know is a big lift, but we've been doing that for quite a while. And I think it's important for us to hear what people have to say. That's my feedback.
Yeah, we don't want to short anybody, but actually we haven't done 3-hour meetings we just switched back to going to 3. For most of COVID, we've been on like 1.5 hour or 2-hour meetings. And ironically, I was the one who suggested we go back to 3, because we were then trying to cram too much stuff into that 2 hours. So if we need 3, use 3. But if we don't, because I'm just like sitting here thinking like, what else could we add to the meeting? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense just to add things for the sake of us packing the meeting. So that's what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
And actually, for a 3-hour meeting, it would be really nice if you had like a 5 to 10 minute little break in there.
Okay.
I agree.
A bio break, a snack break, a stretch break, whatever.
Yeah, I like it. Sam?
I think the complete recommendation, because it would be on you all, but since this might get a lot of attention and new visitors, it may be nice at the end, optional for folks who are interested in serving on PCCEP. So it could be like a little recruitment opportunity at the end if people want to stay on, just because I feel like might be good energy. It's a really big topic. It's a lot of money. So you may be able to leverage that interest into potential recruitment.
I like that. We'll call it like a recruitment social or something, or final questions kind of a deal. I think that's awesome. And now that you're out of the mayor's office, maybe we'll snag you for the committee. Any other final thoughts, questions, comments? before we wrap up tonight's steering committee, I think it was really productive. And I think that this is kind of how I envision the space being used. Go ahead, Barb.
Hey, Anne, since the COCO, I don't know if you guys are gonna change the SAP's agenda with the change with the COCO thing. Do you want to talk to me about working on or not working on the wellness stuff with us? Us being the behavioral health subcommittee.
Yeah, we're gonna leave it on our meeting, but I can talk to you. I saw your emails, yeah.
Okay,
Fine.
thanks.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap up our October steering committee meeting. I really appreciate everyone for being here, for our staff for taking the notes, for the offices for being here and adding their input, for the community members who showed up and gave their voice, and our steering committee members and PCEP members as a whole. We will see you all on October 26th. Reminder that the COCO meeting is on Thursday, but you'll also have another opportunity here at our full board meeting as well.
Thanks, Lakiana.
Yep. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
All right.
everyone.